Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to take you through my method for routing fig cuttings. Now I'm going to take you through a step-by-step guide so you're going to have the best chance of success. Now I've spent the last few years watching videos of different YouTubers, different fig collectors doing different methods, and I've sort of combined a mixture of the methods to what I think is the one you're going to get best success out of. So when you're buying fig cuttings, I highly recommend you go to a collector on a Facebook group, somebody who's known in the community, and look for previous posts that they've done and pictures of their figs. Because if you buy off an unknown person off eBay or somewhere else, you're not guaranteed that it is going to be that variety. I do recommend you actually go out and hunt out a good variety that would be good for your area. Not all figs made are the same. Some are better for humid climates, some are better for dry climates. So you really want to get something that's going to perform well where you are. So first thing we want to do is label our jars. So we don't want to mix any of our figs up. And then I'm going to fill these with some plant starter. This really helps sort of stimulate everything getting going. It's not necessary. You can use water to put them in now, or you can use some rooting hormone and mix that with some water and it just does the same thing. But we're basically wanting to hydrate our cuttings to make sure that they're not going to dry out. So I will just use a bit of isopropylic alcohol and clean my secateurs, and this will just stop any bacteria being transmitted to the cuttings. Not 100% necessary, but I did listen to a guy who just basically said when you're doing grafting or rooting cuttings, you want to be essentially like clinically clean, like a surgeon. When we do this, we really want to make sure that we get our cuttings the correct way up. So you always have the bud above the leaf node. So what I want to do now is do an angled cut below the leaf node that we're going to root, get a fresh cut, and then this one we can just chuck straight in. So one thing I do always do is I always chop the bottom off at an angle, and I always chop the top straight. This just makes it really easy to identify which is the top and the bottom, so you don't get mixed up. So that's the cuttings now ready for the next stage. Now we're going to wash them with some mildly soapy water, just to clean any bacteria or anything else off the outside of the bark. So what we're going to do is clean our cuttings in a bit of mildly soapy water. Now I've just used a little bit of dish soap. This one's plant-based and quite low fragrance, which is what you want. Now the idea of this is we just want to wash off any bacteria or anything on the bark of the cuttings. And this goes back to the whole idea that we want things to be clinically clean, because any bacteria on here will sort of hamper our chances of the cuttings taking or getting infection or something. So if we give them a good clean beforehand, it will improve our chances. So doing this isn't necessary, but I do think it does improve your chances of the cuttings taking and not getting an infection, which I think is worth doing, especially when some of these fig cuttings can be hundreds of dollars. Right, so now we've got our fig cuttings cleaned, we're going to seal the top of the cuttings. This is to stop the cuttings drying out and stop any moisture getting out. Now, a lot of people use beeswax or a paraffin wax, or a mixture of the two, and they'll melt it and dip it in the melted wax. But that does seem like quite a lot of work for 6 cuttings. So I'm going to try something new this time. I'm going to use bonsai cutting paste. Now, people might hate me in the fig community for this, but I feel that the bonsai community has been doing this a while, so we'll see. And this is going to be a lot quicker than setting up a whole thing with the wax and everything. Now the reason why people don't like this stuff is because after a few months it can start to crack, and that allows bacteria in and infections can form. But I found if you reapply, it seems to be significantly better than using nothing. But wax is probably the way to go. It's just going to take significantly more time to set up. The other thing you can do is wrap grafting tape around the top, and this will just help seal in the moisture. Let's face it, if I was doing that with wax, I would still be waiting for the wax to heat up, and I'm finished. So next we're going to leave those for 1 hour to 24 hours, just to soak in the nutrients from the plant starch, and that'll make sure the cutting is nice and hydrated for when you plant it, because the last thing we want is for the cutting to get dehydrated and then to die because of that. Right, so we're all set up now. The cuttings have been soaking for around 5 hours. And those eagle-eyed of you will notice there's an extra cutting now. This one here is a pastelier that's just turned up. So the next stage, we've got all the pots that we're going to use. We're going to use clear pots so we can see the roots development. And then we're going to put them in black pots. And this is to block out any sunlight to the roots. So the next stage, we've got some grafting tape, and we're going to wrap the upper part of these cuttings in the grafting tape. And this is to help keep in the moisture. So we're just going to start from where we're going to have above where it's going to be in the soil. So if we're going to have the soil 2 nodes, then we'll start from here and wrap the rest. And this isn't 100% necessary, but again, it's just an extra little help for the cuttings. So at this point as well, if you hadn't have sealed the top with wax or bonsai sealer, like I have done, what you could do is actually wrap this grafting tape right over the top, and that would also help just keep the moisture in. But we're just going to go like that on the bit that's going to be out of the soil. And another thing I will add at this time is just cutting the top straight and the bottom at an angle. Just makes it so much easier to know exactly which way up you've got it at all times. Now we want to get a rooting gel. This is Clonex, but depending on what part of the world there'll be different products, but they all pretty much do the same thing, and a knife. I'm going to scrape each side just to the side of the leaf node here. We're going to scrape that through to the cambium, well, through the cambium layer, and scrape it back right to the white wood, just like this. So, and then on that area we're going to apply with a paintbrush our rooting gel. I'm going to use a little stake to make a hole. Now this one I've actually got 2 leaf nodes that'll be in the soil, so I'll actually scrape both of these. This will give me a much better chance of it rooting. The reason we do this is because the areas around the leaf nodes are the most likely to root. That's where the roots will come from, in a similar way to new shoots. And what you find is the area where you've actually broken through the cambium layer, which is the green layer below the bark, that's actually where most of your roots will come from, and most vigorously. So by doing this in the areas around the leaf node, you're going to sort of accelerate the rooting process. What we'll do is put them all in the black pots like that, just so the sunlight can't get out of the pot. So now I've put them in a plastic box, which I'll put the lid on for the next week, and I'll just let it air every day so it gets some air circulation. And then probably after 1.5 to 2 weeks, once they start to develop roots and start to grow a little bit, I will bring them out. So once they've started to develop roots, you can put them in a warm window which gets a bit of sun. You want to keep the soil moist but not saturated. One of the biggest causes of failure is root rot from overwatering. Another hot tip is to get some of these yellow sticky traps for fungus gnats, because the fungus gnats really love the moist soil. So generally when it comes to watering, when they're in the box, I will spray them with a spray bottle to keep the soil moist on top. And then once they come out and they've started to develop roots, I'll just sort of water them every few days. Now once you get to this stage, you can pot them up into a bigger pot. Now I normally go straight to a 400mm, or I think that's 16 inches. And then they're pretty happy in there for about 2 years. In terms of fertilising, when they're at the early stage, I use like a indoor follicular spray. And I'll do that as much as, like, you can use it every day if you wanted. Like, they really love it. And then once they get a bit more developed, I will use a half-strength liquid seaweed fertiliser. And I'll do that every week until I pot them out. So this is a bit different for me because I'm doing this in autumn, and they're actually starting to lignify and to go dormant. But if you're doing this in spring, at this stage they'll just keep growing, and once you plant them out, you can really get a good size off them in the first year. This is a good example of what you'll get at the end of your first year. So this was a cutting last year. You see where the growth came off the top. So this is one of the reasons why I'm not too bothered about using the bonsai cutting paste, because if you paste it on top of that, like, you can just clean it off at the end of the first year. So I really don't think it matters long term. But what you want to do is let it grow a single stem like this. So it puts a lot of strength into this single stem. And then in winter, we will cut it to around 500mm to a metre from the base, and then we'll let it form its tree from there. So thanks for watching. I hope this has inspired you to start your own fig cuttings. If it has, please let me know in the comments and let me know how you've got on. And if you haven't already, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you next time.